Welcome all to today's webinar, 2026 Predictions, Trends, and Opportunities. I'm Steve Zisk, and our speaker today is John Nash, Vice President of Strategic Initiatives at Redpoint Global. John helps organizations unlock the full potential of the customer data to fuel standout AI and customer experience outcomes. With a career spent at the intersection of advanced technologies, analytics, and business innovation, John brings deep expertise in turning complex data challenges into real growth opportunities. Here at Redpoint, John contributes to shaping strategy and thought leadership for a company recognized for tackling the toughest customer data problems, from poor data quality to unreliable identities, through market-leading data readiness technology. John previously spent 15 years at Accenture as a founding member of the global CRM practice and later led the global customer insight practice. He also guided product and corporate strategy at FICO, invented several patented business methods, and co-authored The Deciding Factor, the power of analytics to make every decision a winner. In 2026, John's insights sit squarely at the convergence of real-time data, AI-driven decisioning, and next best action customer engagement, making him the perfect guide for today's webinar. Welcome, John, and I'm eager to hear what you're thinking about 2026.
Great, thanks, Steve. Appreciate it. I also want to thank Steve. He helped gather some of the research and proof points behind this. We worked collaboratively on predictions. He's got a lot of great experience himself. So I'll get into it. There's 4 predictions we're going to go through. We do have a lot of great proof points behind these predictions. They didn't just come out of thin air. Working with our clients, looking at industry trends, industry analyst reports. There's really a lot of great opportunities to both unlock growth and productivity. And the first prediction is going to focus on hyper-personalization. Hyper-personalization as a concept has been around a long time. We're actually going to realize the benefits in 2026 because of some advances in customer data and AI and the data readiness technology. With data readiness itself, kind of prediction 2 becoming a must-have for organizations to compete. Thirdly, we're going to see next generation data management emerge in 2026 because of some of the trends around composability and data gravity, which again, I'll get into the details around that. And the 4th prediction has to do with Agentic AI. Agentic AI is going to take off. We're going to see some real breakthroughs around data quality being solved, specifically for Agentic AI purposes in 2026. So got a lot of ground to cover. Feel free to pop any questions in, and we'll try to get to those at the end. The first one I'll go into, again, is a trend around hyper-personalization, or also known as data-driven personalization. Now, customer data has been around for a long time, but we haven't had until this year really mature customer data technology paired with some of the AI advances, paired with the consumers themselves reaching a tipping point in terms of digital engagement, multi-channel engagement. We've seen in healthcare, for example, this last year, 2025, became the first year that more than 50% of engagement was done digitally in the healthcare industry. And they're a little bit of behind some of the things going on in retail and travel and some of the other spaces. But really, this digital engagement is a key underpinning and a key tipping point that's going to unleash the power of hyper-personalization to improve customer experiences and outcomes. Some of those outcomes include making businesses 60% more profitable if they use personalization coupled with being customer-centric. I'll get into the details on that in a second. Personalized course changes have 3x the impact over simple next best action personalization. We're also seeing that personalization is driven by data, of course, but data is also a key opportunity to improve marketing productivity. And we'll get to that as well as we go into this. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on the proof points behind these predictions because it's easy to say what might happen, but when you say it from a fact base, it becomes more meaningful, becomes more actionable. And we'll unfold that as we go throughout this webinar. So if you're customer-centric and you're a leader in personalization, this is according to Gartner, you can see a 10% higher compound growth rate, 60% more profitability, and that profit comes from 1.3 times more likely to complete a purchase that a customer would have, almost twice as likely to pay a premium, and almost 4 times likely to purchase more. So not only is personalization becoming possible, it's actually driving significant business results, specifically when it's paired with customer centricity. Customer centricity can be defined in lots of different ways. I like with what Gartner pulled together here on the right side, that personalization itself creates, you want to look for relevant, individualized interactions that ultimately enhance the experience. And to be customer-centric, you've got to know the customer. You've got to understand their intent. You've got to facilitate their journeys according to whatever the customer's desired outcome might be. And by knowing them, you've got to understand their context. You've got to understand their behaviors, their preferences. You've got to understand where they are in a journey, where they might be going, have all the context of past journeys at hand, and be able to do this in an omnichannel way. That's being customer-centric. That's possible with today's technology, and it's really enabled and enhanced by customer data technology in particular. If you do personalization right, that could include nudging consumers to make course changes. Now, not a lot of companies do this nudging well. There's a lot of companies are doing next best actions. It's just simply presenting the next best offer, the next best message. But if you have the journey in mind and you actually can nudge them in a course change, you have 3x the impact of a next best action. So in those course changes, you have to understand the context of where you are, and data becomes critical to that context. Data is in essence more important than content. Content's still important for personalization. We're going to see that in budgets, but the data is even more important, and the technology to drive that data. Here's a little bit of an example of that. So if you look at marketing budgets in total over 2025, they were mostly flat to maybe up a little bit, down for many. But personalization budgets as a portion of marketing budgets have expanded. So 30% growth in the amount of money spent on personalization. How that breaks down, it's interesting to look at the top 3, technology being the top driver of that, content creation 2, customer insights 3. So data, and then data collection 4. So the combination of data, technology, content are what's driving these personalized outcomes, and they have to be done in balance. I'm going to spend a lot of time on the technology part later in this presentation, but all elements are important. Just another kind of proof point behind personalization becoming a top priority is if you look at the GenAI opportunities. Gartner did a value evaluation on each of 20 different use cases. It was interesting for me to see number 3 and 4 here. So dynamic personalization, 3rd highest value created, journey creation and optimization, the 4th, data technology, customer data influence, both of those. Those are great opportunities for us as enterprises to create value for our customers and for the enterprise. Not only can data help with that kind of revenue side of the value, but also with the cost takeout and productivity. So another survey, this is a separate survey of the top ranked ways to boost marketing productivity in the coming year. Out of the 12 opportunities identified, the number 1 was leveraging data, analytics, and measurement to optimize performance. And ultimately, you want to create a closed loop between your data, technology, results, so you can test, tune, and tweak, and really refine your segments, refine your messages, refine your AI to drive that revenue lift and that lower cost of acquiring and keeping and expanding customer relationships. Now, part of personalization is also getting segmentation right. And we're seeing companies move from kind of a one-to-many to a one-to-one on this, from the left to right on the spectrum. And further on the right, we have intent-based segmentation, really understanding the customer's intent within a specified time frame. You might have micro behavior segmentation, and as you get into intent behavior and micro behaviors, you get a lot more granular in your segmentation, you have to operationalize the data to account for that granularity without adding any staff. I'm going to go through ways to do that later on, but it's interesting to see that the trend here is toward very granular segmentation. The 5-year trend for personalization in general from Gartner kind of takes this level of understanding from assuming we know who the customer is to actually knowing who the customer is. It takes automation from automating a channel to actually automating the journey, which might span channels, and taking the operating model from silos to embedded in the customer flow. So there's a lot of things to be done to enable that from a technology perspective. Again, I'll get into it. The trends are really, really headed in the right direction. Now that leads to kind of what are we seeing in data management more broadly and data readiness, because it's not just for personalization, but for driving AI and just great customer experiences, you need data. And data readiness is now a must-have for organizations to compete. And part of the reason it's a must-have is if you deliver a poor experience to customers without the right data, you're going to lose them. And 44% of customers block a brand when it communicates in a way that is irrelevant or annoying. And a lot of times irrelevant because you don't have that understanding through data. 40% stop doing business with the brand altogether. Significant downsides. We're also seeing that if you look at data management professionals, they identify AI-ready data as the #1 priority over the next 2 to 3 years. And I'll get into some of that, the results of the survey that drove that. And also enterprises that invest in data readiness, specifically for AI initiatives, achieve a 26% higher business outcomes to compare to those adults. So this is another one that delivers meaningful results. And I'll get to that. The investment from data management professionals was AI-ready data initiatives. The investment from chief data officers, chief data and analytic officers is also AI-ready data. It was kind of interesting over the top 10 investments prioritized. The top 4 touch on things we're going to touch on in this webinar. So not only AI-ready data, but having strong data quality in place, building an architecture that supports the delivery and maintenance of data as a product. We need to be thinking about customer data internally at enterprise as a product that enables lots of different functions and channels across the enterprise. And fourth, CDAOs are prioritizing data integration, data preparation as investments. Top 4 of 10, we'll touch on them. If you we also look at this from a hype perspective, or what are the expectations in general for data management in this next year. This is from Gartner. The very top of the peak is AI-ready data. The next one down to the right here, or 2 down, is data products. Another thing we talked about, 4 or 5 down from that is data management platform. So all 3 of those have very high expectations. And I think there's lots of technology innovation that's going to drive the results from those expectations. And the benefit levels over the next 5 to 10 years are seen as transformational for AI-ready data and data products. It's also seen as high for data management platforms. So some really great opportunities in these in becoming AI, and not only AI, but just data ready in general. Now, data readiness is a little bit of something too that it has tainted the value proposition of customer data platforms, or CDPs. So CDPs have been a hot topic over the last few years, but they got one thing wrong, and I think it was Brian Ryback that put this well, is that CDPs themselves do not enable data unification. Data unification enables CDP value. And what a lot of CDP vendors failed to recognize is that the data has not been unified. You can't deploy a CDP on top of ununified data. You need to do that first. When you do that well, you get value from the CDP itself. And poor data quality costs enterprises $10 to $15 million. That shows it's a lack of unification, lack of quality driving that unification, leads to subpar CDP satisfaction levels and results. This is from Forrester on the right, that only 29% of CDP enterprises were mostly satisfied with their customer segmentation, even lower satisfaction levels for profile assembly, which is the core part of a CDP, lower satisfaction yet for integration with campaign endpoints, and the lowest satisfaction around personalization, which we recognize as a key driver of value. So CDPs are falling flat. There's a way to fix that. And the way to fix it is through data and unification, enabling the CDP, plus orchestrating that data after the CDPs created the profile to activate it across the enterprise. I'll get into both of those a little bit later. But I did want to cover the third prediction for this year, which is around next-gen data management. Next-gen data management is going to emerge, particularly with advances in composability, in data gravity. There's key gaps are going to be filled. I like how Gartner put it around data management is really the question that matters to data management is whether a data team can deliver AI-ready data on time and in full, period. That's it, on time and in full. And unfortunately, most can't right now. And some of the reasons for that are most enterprises have a dozen or more data management solutions with overlapping data functionality. And then the biggest issue that AI teams are running into is data quality issues, missing data, stale data, inconsistent data. 56% reporting that as a top issue, according to a marketing survey by Chief Martech. With all these challenges going on, 35% of data analytic leaders think they need to significantly overhaul their data management architecture so that we are going to get next gen one way or another. And also, 56% of chief data analytic officers recognize that their primary responsibility is to optimize the technology landscape. So here's the kind of landscape that they're dealing with is a very fragmented one. So you've got data quality, data integration, data metadata, MDM, data persistence, data governance, and within those sectors, various components. This is how you can easily get the 12 different data management products with overlapping functionality, but also gaps in functionality. So Gartner sees with this infrastructure sprawl that there will be some convergence of these data management platforms, maybe into a single convergent platform. I think it's going to take us a long time to get to a single platform, but there will be some consolidation of functions. But it's also important to recognize that while this convergence is going on, you got to use best-in-class components to avoid vendor lock-in. The last thing you want to do is be locked into one vendor for all of your data management. Their prices are going to increase substantially because of lock-in. So that you've got to pick off certain components and make them best in class, and that removes the lock-in concern, and that can be done through third-party vendor products. I'm going to get into composability and what those components might look like a little bit later in the presentation. The other thing to account for is that 85% of enterprises are going to deploy data management software in a hybrid cloud scenario by 2029. So hybrid clouds are here to stay. We're seeing data being spread across physical data centers and cloud environments, or multiple cloud environments, or edge platforms combined with data centers and clouds. So recognizing that the technology has to be able to span those to be successful. We're also seeing a little bit of an increase of data gravity, which is this notion that you might have a lot of your data, maybe not all of it, but a lot of it in like a Snowflake instance, and it becomes a critical mass part of your data. And in some ways, it's easier then to move the apps to the data instead of trying to move that data out to other apps. And we're seeing that with marketplaces around and ecosystems developing around things like Snowflake, where you can buy apps as add-ons to your single customer view that you might host in a Snowflake environment. And that, by bringing the apps to the data, you get higher throughput and you get lower latency. We have some technology innovations that are doing just that, and that will be a trend to watch. Going at some of the challenges with integrated AI systems, of the top 10 challenges cited by Chief Martech, poor data quality was the #1 challenge. I like their quote on the left here that context is important and context engineering isn't without its challenges. the biggest issue they're facing is poor data quality, and AI is the epitome of garbage in, garbage out. And as AI takes off, having that garbage out there is not going to work. Excuse me. With the advances in AI, with the advances in digital engagement with consumers, multi-channel journeys, we've got to move past this traditional lineage data management to an always-on AI-ready data. And this is a framework from Gartner, which I really like how they've done in this ongoing and interoperable perspective on data, AI-ready data, is that it's connected, it's contextual, it's continuous, and it's curated. It's a very simple way to say what needs to happen next in data readiness technology, and I will go into some basics of how to actually activate that and take action on it. So the fourth prediction is around agentic AI. Agentic AI is going to require some breakthrough data quality solutions to address the persistent problems that are occurring around data quality, specifically customer data quality, in order to realize the benefit of agentic AI. Now, agentic AI is estimated that 40% of the projects are going to fail because of data quality issues and consistency of data. I'll get into some reasons of why that's happening in agentic AI specifically. And this is something we have to solve. And 56%, I think I mentioned this, Martech said that AI is or data quality is the #1 challenge in operationalizing AI. And according to Gartner, AI is going to become the #1 newly deployed technology to improve customer experiences by 2027. So we have to get data quality right to make that happen. And this is why. And this is, again, from Gartner pointed out, specifically around AI, agentic AI, and we think about customer data, you can't have inaccurate or incomplete data. The agents won't be able to act in the right context. You can't have missing or you can't have wrong metadata. Again, that helps add to the context. Not having the historical data, you're missing out on context. Lack of focus on prioritized business outcomes. You need the right data to support those outcomes. And also data silos is a big challenge, specifically with agentic AI. You can't have an AI agent going out to multiple different data silos on the fly, trying to piece together an action or a recommendation. It's got to be pulled together. So solving these data challenges is key, specifically for customer applications. Now, if you look at agentic AI and how its impact on e-commerce and retail in general, 20% of storefront interactions are going to be agentic AI machine driven by 2028. And that means consumers are going to have their own agents, their own AI agents. They're going to understand their preferences and context and intent. They're going to interoperate with brand agents that understand the brand offerings and solutions. And those agents are going to communicate and either gather information for a consumer to make a decision or maybe even complete the transaction, which is on the right. McKinsey has said that it's going to be $1 billion for retail revenue in 2030, for agentic commerce, 3 to 5 trillion global agentic commerce by 2030. So this is a big opportunity. We've got to get data right for this and data quality done. If you do this well, these trends I think are really positioned well, given the technology innovations and the pressure on results, to have a breakthrough year in 2026. Hyper-personalization is going to become the CX standard instead of a wish list thing. Data readiness is essential, particularly around AI-ready data. We're going to have a simplified yet best-in-class data management that's going to improve operations and cost efficiency while allowing you to deliver those great customer experiences. And we've got new ways to resolve data quality, which is going to be a key driver of agentic AI. Now, there's quite a few things we've done with our clients to capitalize on these trends. And I'll give you some of those client stories, how to do this, some of the technology. But ideally, you want a context-rich set of customer data. And we believe data needs to be right and fit for purpose. And by right, meaning it has to be complete, it's got to be accurate, it's got to be timely. And it's fit for purpose in that it's actionable across the enterprise, it's trusted, it's compliant. Those are the pillars of data readiness. And when you do this, and we've put together a Customer Data Readiness Hub that does those things. It makes your customer data right and fit for purpose across all these application areas, across ad tech and DSPs, across predictive models, Agentic AI, AI platforms, across engagement channels, engagement platforms, and marketing automation, preferences. And it lives in this ecosystem, becomes a virtuous process when you have a customer readiness hub that not only does it feed data out or a unified customer profile out and activate it to these applications, it takes data back and improves your understanding of the customer over time. And by that continuous testing, tuning, and optimizing, you're able to drive some of the results, which I mentioned that leading companies do earlier, and I'll go through some of the results our clients have seen as well. Really breakthrough results. Now, our hub is a highly composable platform. So you could use the whole thing, or you could use any one component and plug it into your ecosystem. And we're finding, if you look at profile unification in the middle here, a traditional role of a CDP, a lot of those things as I mentioned earlier, upfront weren't done right. The cleansing, standardization, data quality wasn't done well. Identities weren't resolved at the right resolution level or consistently or different entity levels. That result in inaccurate profiles. That's one of the main problems. We solve that through best-in-class components up above the profile unification. We also then activate that profile into the enterprise by allowing you to do very granular segmentation, to create complex audiences that might drive very sophisticated and rich use cases, to be able to do data orchestration, activation across all channels and across the enterprise, and also do it in the customer's cadence, which is increasingly real time. Again, those are components. It's very composable that can be used, but they also work very well together. And when done well together, data readiness leads to great revenue opportunities, productivity, lower costs, but also increased flexibility and agility because the world's going to keep changing. And so there's some examples of our clients in using some of these technologies and best-in-class components. Data readiness has led to significant revenue lift, 3x ROI in year one for a CPG company. An e-commerce company for one line of business had $50 million in added revenue in 1 year. We had 10% million ad tech lift from one program. This was a travel and hospitality client with 50% lift in return on ad spend. Another CPG example was 79% lift in conversions from real-time, highly personalized website decisions. And then in retail, getting a single customer view across 150 million consumers. So we do this at scale as well. We did a 30x compression of getting that single customer view ready and fed it downstream to Databricks. Some other examples on the productivity side in healthcare, closing 50% of care gaps identified that were priority in a 6-month window led to a $6 million profit lift. We've had this in travel. We've had this productivity gain in travel. We've had it in banking and financial services, 80% more productive in data preparation time, which again, data scientists, the data teams, the skills there are under a lot of pressure. This productivity is huge for them. Also, 4 times more granularity. We've seen this in retail and also in financial services by having a lot more granular segmentation without having to add marketing ops or any CX operational staff to make that happen. Significant gains in productivity. On the agility side, we've got a lot of stringent enterprise requirements in regulated industries, working with healthcare payers, providers, pharma, working with banking, investment companies, insurance. So there's a lot of stringent deployment requirements, stringent PII, privacy requirements, operational compliance requirements that we support. And as those change, we change with them. We support that change. We also have avoided vendor lock-in. At one client, avoided lock-in to Oracle, Adobe, Unica, resulting in $2 million savings. And our philosophy is very open architecture, any database, any cloud, any AI, you're not locked in. And it's a great opportunity. Now, how you capitalize on those trends kind of have two different things. One is for the technology side, and one is for the business side. So the technical, and specifically data and technical professionals, and if you look at that, data right to them might look a little different. Complete, accurate timing might look like the profile has been unified, that it's been cleansed, and that the profile is continually updated, and the attributes and model scores are updated along with the profile. Fit for purpose might look like you've got the right data pieces, you can observe the data at ingestion, you can look at households and break aparts, you can tune match rates, you've got granular match rules you can modify, you can manage PII data in a highly compliant way. That's kind of stuff for some of how it's done for data and IT. If you look at for marketers or CX professionals, data being right might mean something slightly different. Complete is that the messages and offers are highly relevant, that it's really based on a deep understanding of the customer through data, that the data's been unified, the profiles have been unified to reflect who the customer truly is, that you know who they are, that you have this deep understanding of not only individuals, but households, and you've got understanding of both anonymous and known consumers. And you can do it in the customer's cadence. And data right for a CX, or fit for purpose for a CX or marketing professional, might look like highly granular segmentation down to a segment of one. It's going to be a closed feedback loop with responses, so you can test, tune, and learn and optimize over time, that you've got a single brain pushing out decisions and recommendations and next best actions across all channels from a consistent way, and that you're also preference aware. So that same technology enables both the marketing, CX, and technical data professionals to be successful in their roles. There's a lot more on best practices behind that. I've got a lot of customer stories behind those results on our website, so go ahead and visit redpointglobal.com for some of that. We take you through how we handle real-life customer data complexity, which is not easy. We've got a lot of built-in customer data logic to get data right, fit for purpose. We have some 400 different macros that deal with customer data specifically. We've got technology that can work at speed and at scale up to real time and without code. And you can do this all with intuitive drag and drop interfaces. And we also have a checklist to get you started. If you want to understand where you are in your journey toward data readiness, this is available, and you can link through the webinar console. Just to give you one example of the checklist, is around unified profiles, and we ask really interesting questions around, can you identify or resolve identity across the full journey, from anonymous to known, across systems, across channels, across life cycle stages? Our profile is structured to support both individual and household levels and or business levels. Can you support near real-time profile unification or real-time profile unification? Can you calculate attributes on the fly as part of the profile? So interesting checklist. I encourage you to go out to the link here, go to our website, you'll find it there as well. So Steve, I think we might have a few minutes for questions. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, John. There's a ton of information and a ton of ideas and guidance in what you've said. I've picked out a few of the questions we've gotten for you today, and I'll try to put them in context as well. You talked a great deal about data throughout the presentation. So one of our questions was, what's the single hardest data problem organizations must solve this year to unlock personalization and AI at scale?
Boy, the single hardest. Well, it probably comes down to two. One is getting that profile right. So unifying the profile, what requires data quality to get it done right. and the other is activating the profile. I think probably the single biggest challenge is activating the profile. They're both really hard, but they both can be done. But activating it in a way that works not only for the enterprise, because you've got to feed lots of different enterprise systems, but it works for the consumer because the consumer journeys are becoming increasingly multi-stage, multi-channel. That profile has got to be, you've got to orchestrate the data to support those types of journeys. And so I would say that's probably the number one, but number two close behind is this, making sure you got the unified profile and the data quality behind it to do it well.
Yep. And I would extend that second piece if I, from my experience, thinking about the CDO and the data organization, particularly in the world of AI, you can't be throwing thousands and thousands of tokens at your AI every time you need to ask a question of it. So the biggest problem there is unifying and collecting and sort of filtering so that you're getting the right data to the AI so that using AI isn't costing you an arm and a leg.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yep, great point, Steve.
Yeah. Another question, at one point you talked about data and analytics and analytics in the context of measurement. So the question here is, which metrics should businesses watch to make sure they're actually getting data readiness? And I would say that they're doing data readiness right. And by how much would you expect it to move?
Boy, getting some tough questions here. Yeah, that's another hard one. I think that I probably would go for a metric that's either some kind of outcome metric on a increase in something per dollar spent, or increase in dollars per customer. So it could be return on ad spend or return on marketing dollar. It could be total revenue per customer or per a customer, lowering the cost per customer interaction. We're seeing in healthcare kind of on a segment basis, lowering the total cost of care for a segment. So I'd focus on outcomes like that, whatever's more important to your business, and then drive down to the data quality and data observability that are needed to drive those outcomes. We have a lot of things in our data observability dashboard around sources and feeds and match rates, which are good operational things, but ultimately they're tied to business value. And there's another one, Steve. I know you've got a great lot of experience in this, so I don't know if you've got any other expansion on this as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily change the metrics. I think you've listed a bunch of great ones. I would point out that especially if you're starting to think as a chief data officer, if you're starting to think about data itself as a product, you may want to be sitting down with your business users, your data product consumers, if you will, and figuring out what the metrics are that are most important to them, and make sure that those are good ones that you're measuring and tying back to the data itself in order to make sure data readiness is giving you the results you expect.
Yeah, nice approach. Yep.
Last question. So later in the webinar, you talked a little bit about composability, and I'd be interested in understanding where composability might reduce risk and cost in your tech stack, particularly given how many statistics we're seeing that talk about overlap in the stack or underutilization of CDPs and other elements of the stack. What would you do to reduce risk and cost without slowing the team down?
Yeah, interesting. I think probably if I look at it from a composability perspective, I would do something in the data quality or identity resolution spaces. Those are both spaces where there's a lot of embedded intelligence in the composable pieces, certainly that we pull together. There's other solutions available in the market. They can be somewhat isolated in a composable way. They provide value by themselves. And also with customer data quality, it's a kind of a moving target. Customers always change, like they're changing names, their names get misspelled, addresses change, addresses get misspelled. You've got identities, multiple identities. It's a very complex area, and it's kind of ripe for composability being applied to that, specifically either data quality or which is a feed to identity resolution, and being able to identify consumers and with granular levels of match rates in a composable way, which would be a great win.
I love that answer. And the only thing I'd extend that by is to point out that both data quality and identity resolution ideally should be done well upstream and should be done once. That's not something that you want to have to be doing over and over every time you're pushing a segment out or powering your AI or anything like that. A great way to make sure you're reducing both risk and cost is to centralize those critical functions and make sure that they're done exactly once for your data and use cases.
Yeah, perfect way to put it. Yep, it's great.
Okay, so that's about all the time we have for questions. This has been a wonderful time with you, John, and I'm looking forward to more of these in the future. Thanks everyone for joining. We hope you enjoyed today's webinar, and we'd invite you to visit us, as John said, at www.redpointglobal.com and to download the Customer Data Readiness Checklist from the webinar console, and that'll give you a chance to align your top use cases with the checklist and identify where improved data quality, identity resolution, and real-time activation will have the biggest impact on your organization. On behalf of the whole team, thanks again for your time. We look forward to a conversation with you and to additional questions that you may have. I know we didn't have time for all of your questions, so please, we'll try to reach out and answer your questions in the future.
Thanks, everyone.